please.
Thank you, Chairman Chairman Reed. Chair Mingus, given that the President committed to evacuate all Americans before our military would leave, would you say a successful evacuation would have included all Americans being evacuated before our troops left?
Defining success is hard, and I know this has been talked about and debated, and what the President said, what the decision and what the recommendation by the military to leave on the. But historically, we've gone back and we've looked, and I'm not even sure that there is an example of where we've done a NEO where we brought all the American citizens out of a given country. And so given the remote nature of Afghanistan and the various locations that the American citizens, I'm not even sure it's a reasonable expectation that we could have got 100% out before the 31st.
But the President did commit that we were going to get all of the American citizens out before we would remove troops. Do you think it should be the policy of the United States that we will remove U.S. military and its assets from a hostile country with enemy forces bearing down on us before we evacuate American citizens and partners in the future?
I think it would be hard to quantify a hypothetical because there were so many variables in this one, and no future NEO scenario will be identical. So the decision and the recommendation by the Joint Chiefs and the Chairman to depart on the 31st took into account the situation on the ground for this particular situation, and it was deemed that the calculus was actually, and the risk to American citizens was actually higher had we stayed beyond the 31st than we did when we left actually on the 31st, to include the risk to our troopers that were on the ground at HKIA.
If you were American citizens and you listened to the President say that our troops would not leave before all American citizens were evacuated, would you feel like our President and our military let them down?
There may be some that have that view, but I think our commitment to continue to bring American citizens out has been important.
So I assume the military leadership understood the risk of removing the military and its assets before evacuating American civilians and our partners. Did you see the analysis, and did you warn the administration of the risk of bringing out troops and our equipment before all Americans were evacuated?
Did we provide that risk?
Did you warn the administration that if we did the way it ended up happening, where we brought troops out first before everybody was evacuated, and the fact that we could have evacuated people earlier and we didn't, did you warn the administration that the path they're going down was put American citizens at risk?
I know, and I was not present for those conversations, and I was not with the Chairman when he made those recommendations to the President, but I do know that he went prepared even before the NEO port, but the decision to come out in April, I know that he was prepared and armed to provide the risk associated with the withdrawal.
Did the State Department or the Pentagon choose to rely on the Taliban for security at the airport as we withdrew?
They were a part of that security ecosystem.
Who made the decision, State or the Pentagon?
If memory serves, it was a combination of the commanders on the ground up through the chain of command.
So the commanders on the ground made the decision that the Taliban would do the security, knowing the Taliban's history?
It was deemed that it had to be a relationship that we had to work through, and whether they had stayed on the outside of Kabul or on the outskirts of HKIA, once the collapse occurred and the NSF folded, that was the outer perimeter. That was the outer security for forces that were outside where we were at.
Was the President warned about the risk of relying on the Taliban for security around the airport?
I'm not aware whether he was informed of that or not.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Scott. Now let me recognize Senator Blumenthal, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your continuing attention to these issues and having this hearing today. Gentlemen, last week I had the opportunity to visit Quantico, Camp Upshur,